Hi everyone, MetaDedede here, and so today we're just gonna take a look around the hack again just do this as a kind of final epilogue here. Just giving my thoughts on the various levels, just kind of give a more in-depth review than I normally do. Maybe try to make it a regular thing for when I do Mario hacks. So, first thing, we'll just touch on the overworld here, and overworld 1 right now, and it's very nice. It's not too big, so that even with the secrets and the coins that they have space around here, you're not feeling like you're desperately searching in every tiny little nook and cranny, and you're not able to find anything. And I also kind of like how it established early on, like, okay, so look for purple things for when you want to find purple coins, and then becomes a very nice indicator when you actually get into the levels here. So it's like, oh, okay, let's figure out where our purples are scattered throughout the level here. So, all right, we'll talk about course 1 a little bit here. So, yeah, Buttercup Hills. This was a really great first course. I mean, there wasn't anything that was overly difficult here. I mean, it was a great sort of setup and introduction, like, we had so many different kind of things going on here, like, we see the purple flowers there, and then, we have this section here where it's like, okay, find the path in the box, but we introduce these red flowers, which are lava. We had the section with the, leading to the, different subworlds here. Oh yeah, you have to kind of go in the middle here, but this was great. Like the whole, okay, used the color-coded flowers here for blue for a slide surface, and yellow is your safe normal ground and things like that. Then we also had the subworld with the beehive, which we see over in the distance there. I mean, this was great. It really also kind of set the tone for how great the subworlds in this hack really were. So yeah, I mean, this was just such a great opening course. I liked it a lot. All right, so we'll move on, and then I think the only thing that was maybe not so obvious was, okay, if you want a course 2, you kind of have to go all the way over here. Maybe not the most obvious thing in the world. I think even Bacon Force, when he was doing it, didn't figure it out where this course was for a bit here. I think because he ended up doing course 3 beforehand. But anyway, so course 2, again, for nothing too difficult. I mean, it does introduce the lava, and there's a little bit of shell riding mechanics, but that was actually pretty cool. Like going around and finding the different piranha flowers for a star was really cool. And then obviously we have climbing up to the tops of our trees here, and then of course our volcano over there. I'm not going to get the shell and go over to that shell subworld. The shell, that was actually a fun race. It didn't necessarily feel thematically attached to the level. I think since you enter it inside the volcano, either having the design maybe looking more like it was inside the volcano, or if they kind of did something where it felt like maybe you were on top of the volcano, and maybe it was like you were shot into the air because of an eruption or something going into that race, it might have tied it a little bit more into the theme. But I mean, that's just kind of a minor thing that I would probably personally have done differently. Then of course, past the gates there, you have the poison pond, which is a fun way to do the purple coin hunt with our indicator with purple water. And then of course you see the pipe up there, which led to the other subworld, which was the log rolling over the purple pond, which is, I mean, was probably one of the trickiest stars so far. I mean, it was a pretty tricky star for only course 2, but even then it wasn't really that difficult, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, so yeah, course 1 and 2, yeah, both bangers to start out this hack. And then we can move on over here to course 3 with the Ricotta Harbor. This was a lot of fun. This one actually felt kind of easier than course 2 overall, which is kind of funny when you think about it as like a water course. But yeah, like the shell riding to get the secrets here was really cool. That was a really fun way to do a secrets star. Like the hardest thing was the crane star. And that was only because, like, the cranes, I mean, eventually they kind of don't line up in the way that you think they're going to line up, so you actually had to think of things through a little bit more. And then this also was where we introduced the Vanish Cap, and we'll talk about that in the actual Vanish Cap course in a second, but actually using the mechanic where the main purpose of the Vanish Cap was to avoid the grates in the floor and basically figure out where you want to go as a safe path to get to where the star is was actually pretty creative, rather than just like, okay, you have a limited amount of time to get through this grate. I mean, a lot of times Vanish Cap was ultimately going to be something to that regard, and then that's kind of what it was there. You had to get inside the cage, but, you know, also just throwing the wrinkle where, like, hey, you're usually not thinking about the floor you're running across there, like, yeah. And that was pretty well set up by the Vanish Cap course itself. I mean, being inside the ship, like, originally you just think, like, this rope floor was kind of just for decoration, but then once you actually get the Vanish Cap, and you're like, oh, we can go, you know, it can go through the floor, and that's not, you know, you can go down to where the Bomb Pirate fight is, and then obviously the other star where it was all about getting across the different sections of the ship into the next part of the ship without, you know, falling through the rope floor. It was a very cool, very, very cool star. And then once you get the Vanish Cap, actually using that to serve as sort of the gateway to unlocking course 4 was pretty nice. So making sure that, you know, you actually are exploring things out properly before you get too far in the game. It's making sure that you get the Vanish Cap before you can, you know, progress too much. So this was a pretty interesting course here. Like the main part of the course, well, it was kind of probably one of the most basic so far. Overall, where this one really shined was the overworlds. I mean the subworlds, I should say. And that was really a big theme. Was like, you know, as fun as like their main courses could be, like the subworlds were always just absolutely awesome. So, you know, going into the it's way up there, but yeah, inside the temple where the purple coins were, and basically different, and they had like little different rooms where each coin was, and, you know, having a different kind of challenge in order to get there was really cool. I fell through the floor there. But then you also had the sewer section where you were doing the long jumps and bouncing off the skeeters. Another very, very cool section. So, yeah. Again, all 4 courses here in the main world were very, very fun to play. I mean, World 1 was great, and then even then we still have a little bit more here. You know, we have the bonus courses here with the ski slope. Now, normally I'm kind of lukewarm on slides, and of course I think it also recommends, you know, doing it in Mario Cam. So at least they kind of are giving you that bit of helpful advice there. But what was nice about this, I mean, even if it's, you know, at the end of the day it's still kind of a slide, and then that comes with its own little bit of jank. I mean, the fact that you were able to, you know, redo it, it never felt frustrating. And then obviously we have, you know, another fun purple coin hunt where it's like, hey, okay, find your purple clues and indicators here. Like there's your roof, there was the snowman's eyes, you know, another roof there. So a fun little side course here for, you know, for our secret stars. And then this is kind of where we got the first real taste of like boosted difficulty was going into, you know, it's officially question marks here. But yeah, going into our first boo stage here and climbing up the clock tower. I mean, this was like, okay, make sure you're really, really good with your, you know, wall kicking and long jumping and landing on small platforms and things like that. And then, of course, you know, finding your purple coins along the way. And then, you know, partway up, you know, having the entrance to the second star, which was another vanish cap kind of race, was fun. That was probably one of the best parts of the course. Was like, oh, that fun second star. So yeah, and then the boo fight itself was pretty interesting. Like when you get to the top of the tower and then go get the, you know, basically it was a secret hunt, and then, you know, take care. Basically, well, I guess not secret hunt, but like a boo hunt where you're you have to go through different pathways which have their own different kind of jump challenges to get to them to take out the boo, and then that spawns the big boo. So yeah, all of Overworld 1 was great. All right, and then we move on to Overworld 2, and this is where, you know, we kind of left the realm. Like everything in Overworld 1, like for me, it felt if you were able to handle maybe like vanilla Mario 64 pretty well, there really isn't anything in there that would really be unreasonable challenge-wise. Now here's where things really started stepping up a bit. So 5, like the initial climb really isn't too bad. It can be a little bit tedious the first time around. Once you unlock the cannon, your first trip up the mountain, theoretically, if you actually go that way instead of making the side detours for some of the other stars. But yeah, you can unlock the cannon, and that makes getting back up to the top for some of the stars that are up there much less annoying. So you definitely have that helping out. I mean, overall, this was probably the weakest course so far. But I mean, even that's not really like, you know, a really bad thing. It's like, okay, so the weakest course when the first 4 courses were all really great is, oh, you know, it's like everything else was like, hey, this was maybe B- or something like that. And then, of course, finding the wing cap. So this was like our first test at like a really long endurance kind of level. You can almost think of it as a preview for what, like it was like a small sneak preview for what the final Bowser course was going to be, because it was basically, okay, we're going to go through and you're going to be investigating all these different little subsections. Like, you're not actually doing anything with the wing cap just yet. Like, those wing caps are not activated yet. You kind of have to go through all these different jump challenges, and you're not even finding the red coins yet, you know. But just going from, you know, warp point to warp point to get to the very top, and then eventually, once you do that, you can unlock the gold. Well, you don't really unlock it, but since you get the wing cap, it basically makes this accessible to you. but I consider that unlocking. But yeah, getting to the very top of the whole course, and then that's when you can actually go after all the purple coins, which was really fun. I mean, a lot of times I'm not a big fan of, you know, wing cap courses. This was actually a really fun wing cap course. And then obviously you see that tree way off in the distance, like a kind of a throwback to our first subworld area back in course 1. So this, I think this one kind of redeemed course 5 a little bit for me anyway. And it probably would have been quicker just to die to get back to the main overworld. That's the only thing was, like, if you start and quit, you know, going back to the first overworld. But fortunately, like I said, the overworlds themselves really aren't that big, so it's not really that bad to get back here. So yeah, then course 6, the Cookie Factory. This one didn't go quite the way I was thinking of. Like, when the first star you have to do is, you know, activating all these switches to turn on the factory. Like, I thought there was going to be more going on. Ultimately, the only thing you really end up doing inside the factory itself is, you know, activating these elevators to get up to the star that's way up top there. Like, everything else is in a subworld. Like, you have the purple coin subworld, which I can't actually get to. I can't get to the subworlds now because I selected the wrong star, but that's alright. But, you know, all the subworld, you know, this was one thing where it's like, when you have all these subworlds, you might think, oh, you know, what's going on here? But they, with the exception of the dough roller star, which, like, going across those rolling swamp enemies, like, and having to do the kick jumping or just to get anywhere was kind of annoying. But, like, all the other ones really made up for it. Like, the star inside the oven where you're in the heat haze and you kind of have to keep moving. I thought I would really dislike that star, but that one ended up being so much fun. And even the slide was actually pretty good. So this hack also really surprised me with, like, how well they did the slides. Like, normally, once again, slides can be pretty jank. But, you know, with this one, I was like, oh, you know what? I can dig it. So then, yeah, you have that unlocked, and then you can get to this little island over here, which is kind of fun, like having another one, of course, that's locked behind, making sure you have the wing cap. So yeah, the Twilight Temple. So we have the really fun mechanic where, you know, they do one of those kind of mirror courses. Like, you can think back to, you know, the Mario 74 having a similar level, which was mirrored. But yeah, so you're like, okay, you have certain paths that kind of open up, but they open up a little bit differently if you're on the night side of things. And then the night side is where you have the purples. Again, keeping the theme, like, things kind of get a little bit of a purplish glow at night. So obviously there's your purples, and then there's a couple paths, like, you have the star over there, which is pretty creative, which was bouncing between the two, and so, like, you can only get inside that star area at nighttime, and then you kind of had to use what's differently available between the two day and night things at different points. Like, during the daytime, you're able to get on clouds, and usually you'll have the note blocks around to help you get around. At nighttime, like, these clouds are not solid. Then you also had that race star, which was pretty good. I kind of complained at the time while I was doing it, but I think, like, you know, I kind of messed up. I really should have, like, you know, when I had, like, a attempt that kind of didn't work out, just kind of go through to see how far I actually had to go through the course, because I would have seen, I was on the assumption that it was going to be a very tight timer. It honestly wasn't. So you actually have a little bit more time, you think, and you know, knowing that you can take your time a little, just a little bit, actually makes it so that one's not really that unreasonable. And then, of course, the big tower where we have a couple different stars, like, you know, the star on the daytime, like going around the outside to get to the top. Not really that bad. The toughest one was doing the inside climb, just because the kind of odd rotating platforms made that one feel a little bit awkward. But again, I mean, pretty much all the stars in here were really fun. So yeah, so far, you know, it was really just overall. It was just course 5 there that was really kind of the weak link. Before I go talk about course 8, we can talk a little bit about some of the secrets in here. So we can get our shell. Now we do have this course over here. So it's like, hey, find your shell. And now this one's an interesting secret course. So how much you would end up liking this course is going to be very dependent on what your tolerance is for shell riding mechanics, because yeah, everything is built around shell riding mechanics. Like this was a lot tougher than the Overworld 1 hidden course. So you have to be very, very patient, especially if you don't want to use save states. I mean, this is going to require just a lot of patience. I mean, climbing, because finding the Aero coins, like there's some very precarious platforms that, you know, are not very easy when you're on a shell. And then of course climbing the tower is also fraught with its own perils. It's kind of interesting that this course doesn't have any music, although I guess it doesn't really matter, considering that you're intended to be on the shell the entire time anyway. But yeah, just kind of funny. No regular music for the toxic junkyard. And then obviously we have other secrets, like you can use the shell to find one of the hidden boos back there. A very cool way of doing a hidden star. And then obviously this course. So it's like, yeah, the 100 stars. No, this is just the 100 coin room. The sign tells you, like having this. I kind of get where we're going with this. This is very tough. Like if you're not going with save states, like you're trying to just do this all. The gimmick of being exactly 100 coins is interesting. It can make this very, very stressful. So I'm kind of torn. Like, it's very creative, like having like all the individual different segments in like a fairly small course. But yeah, it can be very easy, like especially when you have like those tiny Goombas and the bullies that you have to get over to that the small fire pit over there. I mean, it's very, very easy to mess up, and some of the coins here are surprisingly tricky. So, on one hand, it's a very small room, so if you wanted to do that, it's not like it takes a long time to retry. You're not like traveling a huge, huge course looking for tiny coins. Well, you know, looking for every tiny space for coins, you know. So, once again, I don't mind the gimmick. It's probably not going to be a course that everyone's going to enjoy. Then the main part of 8 with Bowserland. Now, yeah, I had a lot of problems with that, although, considering it was mostly just me having like a bad time with jumps, like I don't mind the pinball start in concept. Like it was actually kind of fun. Like once you kind of knew what you're doing, if you don't have like a lot of trouble with the wall kicks and springs, it's honestly really not that bad, if I'm perfectly honest. Again, this is another one where it's also kind of heavily based on Subworld, so it's like we have all this fun stuff out here, but the outside is really more about grabbing, you know, the purples and then getting to the subworlds. Like the bouncy castle house, So this is where things started getting extremely tough. Like the bouncy castle house, doing that all in one go could be very tough. Um, the Boo course actually wasn't so bad. That one's one where at least you're able to take your time. You can probably get through it pretty easily. And then the wing cap one, again, it was kind of funny. Like I go back and look at when Bacon Force and I did that. You know, we both had kind of like troubles with the very first ring setup, which is in theory kind of the easiest one, and then we both pretty well nailed the second two, you know, right away. Even though it's like with flying mechanics, it's a little bit iffy, but it doesn't really make it too hard. Like really, the main difficulty in this course is that bouncing castle. That'll probably give people a lot of trouble, but honestly, this course was pretty fun. Like I said, knowing what I know now, I could probably do a lot better at that pinball course. It's really like, you know, it's really just a matter of like you kind of have to just not get into a good rhythm, and you probably won't have too much trouble once you kind of know what you're doing. And like I said, I was able to do that one without save states eventually. Like, you know, it really wasn't super bad. Okay, and then we kind of finished things off here with the very, very hard part. So, you know, what kind of started out hack-wise as like, okay, maybe slightly above vanilla difficulty, ends up becoming like, okay, now we're getting to some kind of light Kaizo territory. So this is like the sort of bonus course here with course 9. Honestly, I really enjoy this one for the most part. Now, it is very tough. I mean, there's a lot of crazy wall kick sections there that, in theory, it would be pretty easy to mess up on. And if you're doing without save states, you know, the wrong fall, you're going to be spending a lot of time getting back to where you were. And that can be a little bit frustrating, but, like, the challenges themselves, like, none of them really feel super unfair. Like, maybe the yellow is kind of, like, the most jank. But, like, everything else is honestly pretty straightforward. Like, the purples were actually pretty cool. Like, having the, it was another one of those things where you have Vanish Cap, and then you kind of have to watch out for the grading in the floor and things like that. But, like, yeah, just having the different pathways and the color-coded different sections for different stars. Very, very cool. Very creative. So, despite how difficult it was, I had a lot of fun with that course. And then, finally, we can talk about our final star. And this will definitely be the end, because we've talked for a little while, but hey, it's all for fun. So, our final course here. Now, I will say, yeah, the two I mean, granted, you know, you have the secret star where you can get around, like, the back to enter into that one cage room, but, like, this actual challenge star was, I guess, I mean, it's kind of like a wall kick challenge test, but, yeah. So, I'm not going to get too far in this course, just kind of talking about it, but, like, this was actually really fun. As far as, like, these long endurance courses go, I like the fact that they kind of broke it up into different sections. Like, you have the first section, which is kind of remixing elements from courses 1 and 2. Then you have the next one, which mixed the elements of 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8. So it wasn't like, okay, hey, we're starting, like, in this section, you know, we're not, it's, you know, okay, technically you're starting course 1, but it wasn't like there's a instant transfer and like, oh, now all of a sudden you're only seeing, like, course 2 stuff. Like, they actually mix things up, so, like, you kind of go back and forth between the two course elements that are being featured. And also the fact that in between each one you do get a checkpoint makes it so, you know, while it's still very challenging, it isn't like the Mario 74 star where you have to do the whole thing theoretically in one perfect run. which, I mean, that can feel really overbearing. Like this one, if you spend enough time, you'll eventually be able to get through it. It is very tough, but that's just kind of how a final course is going to end up going, really. And then the final Boo fight is one of those things where it's like, once you kind of understand, like, you're battling the Boo on the disappearing platforms, it feels a little bit janky. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you can either have one where the Boo's just not cooperating and it's going to be kind of miserable, or you'll be able to get, like, all 3 hits strung together like that. I mean, that one, it ultimately didn't take me too long to beat him, because, like, sometimes you just got to get that perfect AI luck. So it was kind of a weak thing. I would have probably liked to see something a little bit different, like maybe something more like what they did with the first Boo fight. They could have done something similar to that again. That would have been a little bit more fun, and maybe a little bit, and maybe like a more of a fair kind of challenge. But again, kind of nitpicking overall. So yeah, overall, like I said, really the only course that maybe was kind of lackluster was course 5. And I guess, doing those kind of mountain climbs, it's hard to do those, I guess, in a way that stays entertaining and not feeling tedious. I mean, they do give you the shortcut, but again, if there was a weak point, that was probably it. I mean, there really weren't any other courses where I was like, other than maybe 1 star, which is maybe a little bit tougher, or something like the factory had the dual rolling star, like, every other course was like 90% great. So yeah, I can definitely see why this hack was getting such great reviews. So I'm very glad. I'm very glad I chose to play this one, and it was great watching Bacon Forest's playthrough. So if you haven't watched that, definitely check his playthrough out. See, he did it all through without save states. Much better at Mario than I am. So, and I'm also hoping that once Cody is able to get back to doing videos, like that, he'll consider adding this to his playthrough list, because I would love to see him play through this eventually. And honestly, I can recommend this. I mean, to anyone. I mean, if you're decent enough to where you can play, the regular Mario, I think you can make it through this hack, and then you'll really enjoy it. I mean, this was just so much fun to play. So, I'm hoping that the creator does more, because this was his first hack. So I'm hoping that they do more in the future. I'd love to see what else that they could do. So yeah, until next time, like I said, I'll be able to concentrate on getting back to and finishing off Pokemon Yellow, and then I'm gonna see what else I'm gonna do from there. But yep, this has been another great playthrough, and yeah, if you enjoy this, I'll try maybe to do more of these retrospectives whenever I do Mario hacks or anything similar like that. So, all right, I will catch you guys all next time. Bye.